Coming up on the Mobile Journalism Show.
The TV crew approached people, 21% stopped and gave an interview. But when the mobile journalist approached people, 33.5% stopped and gave an interview. So there was a significant difference between those methods.
So today's topic: has a Finnish journalist at the Reuters Institute in Oxford proved that you get more interviews and more intimacy when using mobile journalism?
Welcome to the Mobile Journalism Show. If you're a mobile journalist, marketer or creative who makes content on a mobile device or for mobile audiences, you're in the right place. Keeping you up to date with the fast-moving world of mobile, here's your host and mobile video specialist, Mark Egan.
Today I'm joined by Panu Karhunen from Ilta Sanomat in Helsinki in Finland. And Panu's been doing some really interesting research in the field of mobile journalism. So first of all, I understand you're on holiday, so thank you very much for joining me.
Yes, no problem.
So I saw, because we know each other, I've seen your post on Facebook. I presumed that you were in Oxford for a year, just, going to the Rose and Crown, doing a bit of sightseeing. But apparently you've actually been doing some proper research. So tell me, where have you been for the last year and what have you been doing?
Yes, I was in Oxford for 9 months and I participated fellowship program at the Reuters Institute. And yes, I did this research and we had seminars and lectures and things like that. So it was great here.
Now, I know Ilta Sanomat, for those who don't know, major sort of newspaper, Sanoma Group, a huge newspaper group in Finland, and they've got a number of publications. And Ilta Sanomat have a video section, TV section, obviously traditional print and online digital. Now, you guys have embraced mobile journalism, but what made you, for your year, choose this particular topic? And what was the exact topic that you chose to study?
Yes, well, first I interested in mobile journalism. It was probably 2 years ago or something like that when I worked as a news editor for ISTV. It's our web TV, and I found out that it was very fascinating method to do journalism. It was fast and effective and very intimate way to tell stories if you use it right. And then I proposed that I could do research on mobile journalism. And I started the research with quite broad perspective. First I interviewed four mobile journalists, and it was about advantages and disadvantages of mobile journalism. And then those mobile journalists told me fascinating stories, how they can get closer to the story, and some of them even claimed that they can get more interviews using mobile journalism, and I think that I should concentrate on that part.
Yeah, because funnily enough, one of the criticisms that people make is that whenever we talk about mobile journalism, it's all about the technology. It's what kind of phone, what apps, what which microphones. And at the end of the day, the person consuming it doesn't care. There is it interesting or is it not interesting? And I think it is one of those things that everybody's kind of said, but nobody's really properly looked into it. So there's two things that you've looked into formally, which I don't think have really been properly looked into. One of them is that, do you get more intimacy, more interviews, which we'll speak about in a second. But also you kind of looked back at the history and where mobile journalism fits in and the kind of the trends. Having looked into the history and who's using it, not using it, what was your overall impression of the state of mobile journalism at the moment?
Yes, I think that it depends. Where are you? In some countries, it's not very common. In other countries, it's quite common. Not maybe mainstream, but quite common method. And
as far as the countries, what kind of countries did you think? Yeah, it's common here. And what were the sort of countries that weren't using it? And could you see any particular reason why some were going for it and others weren't?
Yeah, it's quite interesting that for example, in the Netherlands, it's quite common. But then it was Nick Carnett from BBC who told about his trip to Kurdistan, to Iraq, and how people there assumed that BBC journalists should use big camera, and they were disappointed that because they wanted to tell their stories to the world, and there was some guy with a smartphone, but I think that it will change. It will change.
Yeah.
But it just takes time. Yeah.
And talking about sort of how people react to the camera, that brings on to the kind of one of the main finding, in a sense, the thing that's got everybody talking in mobile journalism circles. And that is, you investigated the idea. Do you get more intimacy? Can you get more interviews using the phone or any other mobile device that you're using? How did you go about looking into that? And then what did you find out?
Yes, it was. I think that it was very interesting argument is that some journalists say that they can get more interviews by using mobile journalism. And I thought that it's just an argument. We have to test it, and I organized a comparative field experiment in a shopping center in Helsinki, and I tried to find out which one gets more vox pop interviews: mobile journalist who is working alone with a smartphone, or a two-person TV crew which is working with a big broadcast camera. And we did 400 approaches in 2 days, and 200 with a mobile journalist and 200 with a TV crew, and results were interesting. It was when the TV crew approached people, 21% stopped and gave an interview. But when the mobile journalist approached people, 33.5% stopped and gave an interview. So there was a significant difference between those methods.
And what was the reason? Did you speak to people afterwards to say, why did you stop for this, or why wouldn't you stop for the big camera?
Yeah. I spoke with them, and people say that mobile journalism is easier. It is less intimidating, and there is less pressure when they are talking one to one with a mobile journalist and who is working with a small smartphone camera.
Okay, so in a sense, this thing that you were hearing from people, you actually managed to prove that a statistically significant difference between the two. And when you're actually going out as a single person doing the asking people, was it different in the sense that with the big camera, were people sort of moving away from a long distance away because they could see you and they didn't notice you to the last minute, or could there have been any other explanation?
Yeah. I think that there was a small difference between those methods when I calculated how many people were stopping, but then they didn't want to give interview. And it was a bigger amount in this mojo group, because I think that people can see this big camera from far away, and they just go around and don't stop because they see what is going on. And
do you think? I mean, there was a thing in your paper I wrote this down, is a guy from KSL TV in Salt Lake City, and there was a quote from him saying, with mobile journalism, it doesn't make the pictures better, it doesn't make the stories better, it doesn't make the coverage better. All it is saving money. Do you think, in a sense, that what you're starting to show here is that yes, there is definitely a money-saving aspect to this. Let's not pretend there isn't. But some of the benefits beyond just how good a camera is in low light and that kind of stuff are slightly being ignored.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there are much more advantages in mobile journalism than disadvantages. Much more benefits than just cost savings. Of course, there are downsides as well, and some of them are like related to technology, and I think that we are getting rid of those when time goes on. But there are also one interesting thing that I noticed when I was doing this field experiment was that some people felt that they don't trust mobile journalists so much than bigger TV crew, and it was interesting. Right. And I think that mobile journalists just to explain more what they are doing, as this Dutch mobile journalist Wutje Wellinga said in the research interview.
Yeah, because I know some mobile journalists sometimes unnecessarily, technically, add like bigger microphones or big fat branding on the microphone just because that would make them look more professional. Or even, put it into a mount with a light on the top, even if it's outdoors and you're not using the light because it looks more professional. So you've done this this study. You published the paper. You come back. Is there anything you'll do differently now, or is there anything that when you go back and you speak to your colleagues that based on this, what will you be telling them or advising them?
Well, first I will get rid of those big microphones and big windshields, and it's easy. But then I think that it would be to get all on board. I mean, like photographers and like that, because now we have thought that it's merely like training reporters to mobile journalists. But I think that a smartphone could be a very useful tool for professional photographers and videographers. So it would be good to train them as well.
Because of course you don't have to use just one tool or the other. You could be a photographer and get a few shots back very quickly and carry on with your other camera and that kind of thing. And you talked about the number of interviews you got in the shopping centre. Do you think that you get a better quality of response in the sense that people are less intimidated, they're more relaxed? Did you notice any differences that way?
Well, no, I didn't look that. I have to say it would be interesting to do more research on this, and I think that it would be very interesting to get know what are the physiological differences. What happens to heartbeat and what happens to brain functions and
right, it's getting very scientific on us, because I was going to say the hardest part about that question is it's a bit of a horrible question because it's a very hard thing to measure because you might do an interview with somebody and you think, oh, they've really opened up and that's really, really good. Somebody else might watch it and say, oh no, that would have been better with a different camera. So it's an extremely difficult thing to measure like for like. But I think what I really like about what you've done is you've moved the debate on from kind of pixels and bit rates and all that kind of stuff to, you're a journalist, you need to get stories. Will more people stop? And maybe once you've fitted all the wires and done your next research, do they give you a better response? So where do you think this is going? Because you've had a rare opportunity to step back and say, this is where we've come from. This is where we are. You've started to find some of the more non-technical benefits of mobile journalism. Where do you think we're going with all this then? Do you think some people say this is a bit of a fad and it will die out, or, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think that mobile journalism becomes more common. And I think that we will see when people... I think that one big problem in the past was that news organizations tried to turn all journalists to mobile journalists, and they demanded like five stories per week, and you have to work alone, and there is a lot of pressure and strict deadlines and things like that. But I think that it's not really work that way. I think that it will be more like mixture of different methods and different devices and different tools in the future, and different like VR and live and just video pieces work together. Yes,
because of course nowadays it's you have to produce all sorts of different types of content, don't you? So
yeah,
that's why having more technical skills is now becoming more necessary, but also why the phone is a great tool, because you can do all the social stuff as well as the photos and the videos. And you also looked at the
yes. I really like this all-in-one device feature of mobile journalism and smartphones. It's fascinating that one day I just tried this blurring app. You can blur people's face, and it took a lot of time when you are doing it on computer. But with smartphone you can do it in 10 seconds or something like that.
Yeah. And
there was this face story app where faces are changing, and it would take 2 days if you are doing it on After Effects or something like that.
Yeah, and sometimes some of those apps you maybe use them twice a year, but it's good to know they're there when you use them. And just wrapping up, you kind of also looked at the wider sort of video and how video is becoming more important and the trends and all that kind of stuff. I mean, for what would be a traditional newspaper, I know there's no such thing as a traditional newspaper anymore, but maybe a legacy newspaper which now has like TV channels and digital platforms. Where do you think video fits in the business model? Because I've heard people say, "Oh, we spend loads of money making videos, but I'm not sure if it pays the bills." And others saying, "If you're not on top of video, then you're dead already." What's your take on video and its role for what was a former kind of newspaper?
Well, I think that we just need to choose right tool for different stories, to tell different stories. If we are dealing with very complex economic issues, for example, we should use graphics and just written story. But if we are dealing with some emotional interview or something like that, video is great method to tell that story. And I think that there has been so much video enthusiasm that we have sometimes used video wrong way, tell stories that doesn't fit on video. So yeah. And
for you personally, obviously you're back in Helsinki now. Are you looking to, we spoke earlier about, more research needed. Is that something that in the future you're looking to get more into? Or are you still interested in immersing yourself in the whole mobile journalism thing?
Well, I really like this being a journalist as well, and working in a newsroom. I think that it's better for me, but it's very nice to try something else as well. So yeah, but I think that at least a couple of years I will stay in the newsroom. Yeah.
Yeah. No. I'm not trying to take you out of the newsroom. Don't you worry. But it is great to step away and have that opportunity. And of course, that's something we can all benefit from. And if somebody does want to read what you've done or get in touch or find out more, where should they go?
Yes, you can find my research on Reuters Institute's website.
I will let you get back to what is your holiday, even though I know you're rearranging where you're living. Thank you very much for sharing your time and your expertise with us. And I'm going to be in Finland in September, and we've already talked about catching up for a drink, so I hope to pin you down for a quick drink then. But look forward to that, and in the meantime, have a good rest of your holiday.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe. And we'd love it if you would leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. To get in touch with Mark, go to www.purplebridgemedia.com or tweet him at Mark Egan Video.